Hello and welcome back to Saints Squad. I'm your host, Dylan Standard of Saints Wire. And guys, we did it. We just watched the New Orleans Saints play a football game. Well, I mean, most of the New Orleans Saints.
John Hendricks, New Orleans football. And while we did see preseason football, wasn't the worst thing I saw. It was not even a great thing I saw, but it was football. Let's talk about it.
It's the Saints Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything New Orleans Saints, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from down in the Big Easy, the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Saints Squad show, starting now.
Howdy, United Nation, and welcome back to the Saints Squad show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every Sunday and Thursday. We have a unique group of experts here ready to bring you a fun and informative show on everything New Orleans Saints. Today we're going to be diving into, I think you can guess, our instant reactions to the Saints preseason game. It's going to be awesome. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. This is our first of our post-game series. It's going to be our new Monday episode. It's going to be, it's Sunday. Sundays are busy for people who cover Saints. So it's going to be more of a rotating group, at least that is the plan for now, of Saints voices. But you have me and John here today. I mean, I'll be here. It'll be a rotating. People are going to be in and out. But we have me and John today. And Ross is going to join in whenever he can. He's doing stuff in the stadium. Ross is going to be here whenever he can. But until then, let's talk about some Saints preseason football, because even though it wasn't the best game we saw, it was just fun to see football again. So, John, why don't you get us started? What do you think of the quarterbacks in general?
Yeah, I think there's so much to still be sorted out here. And look, I don't think anybody should be really surprised by what we saw out there. Again, this is a team that's rebuilding, right? And so if anybody magically thought that Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough were just going to ball out, again, you've had maybe 10 practices now. I'm not surprised. I really would have liked to seen a lot more from the quarterbacks in some aspects. Like, I love how Tyler Shough responded, right? I hate how Spencer Rattler finished. I thought Spencer Rattler started strong, and then obviously the strip sack, maybe not totally on him. Also, in the same argument, you could say that he probably should have felt the pressure coming and got rid of the ball, done something different with Tyler Shough. That was an ugly throw to make, and the DB read it perfectly. Pick six the other way, but I love how he responded. And again, we've been waiting for guys like Mason Tipton to do something in the preseason, and by God, Mason Tipton did something. And so I think that gives you a little bit of hope in some aspects, but nobody's the starter. And we've said this on the previous show, Dylan, that regardless of what happens, nobody's going to be the starter after this game. But again, I would have loved to see some better things out of Spencer Rattler. I did like some of the decisions he made. I thought he had some quick decisions. I thought he went through his progressions and reads pretty well. I loved what I saw from Tyler Shough in 2 minutes, making some quick decisions, getting rid of the ball quickly. But again, it was flawed for both quarterbacks. I liked what Tyler Shough was able to do with the big play ability. It kind of was reminiscent of OTAs and stuff, but this offense, much of a work in progress, but again, you got to start somewhere, right? You have to look at it. When you go back on the film, there's some plays where Tyler Shough had wide open players that he could have hit. Rattler's going to have decisions that he would have made better and differently if he had it over again. And that's just what preseason's about.
Yeah. I think I'll start off. I agree with you. There is no starting quarterback after one game of the preseason. You want it to happen sooner rather than later, but I think today was a great day for Tyler Shough, in my opinion, because Spencer Rattler came out and he was fine. I would say he was 7 for 11 for 53 yards, had some missed throws, missed some pressures, didn't have a lot of help on the offensive line once players started going down. But overall, it was just a fine day for Spencer Rattler. But I would say it's kind of what we have seen for the past year and some change. It didn't really look different. I think, he showed that he can manage a game and perform at a fine level. He can, make it 4 quarters in an NFL game, in my opinion. Whether they lose or win in those 4 quarters is still to be determined, but he's serviceable. What I think Shough did well, I think Shough came in and showed a little bit more of the energy and kind of why the Saints wanted to draft him. He did look decisive. He had that big bomb throw. He was taking more risks, and of course that backfired wherever he threw the interception. But I still think it's the preseason. It's good to see that. And I think what I really liked is something I saw in practice wherever he made a mistake. Tyler Shough came back and performed fantastic after the interception. He didn't let the mistake get in his head. Because sometimes when you see these gun-shy quarterbacks, which is what people describe Shough as for the first couple of practices, they come in and they blow up and it looks like a disaster and they get inside themselves. But I think Shough answered and responded well. Again, while there was no quarterback decided today, I think that's a win for Tyler Shough.
Yeah, I mean, and again, here's the thing everybody's got to remember. It starts somewhere. It has to start somewhere. It has to be here. What's going to be most important is what does each quarterback do next week, right? They're going to be playing at home. I did say it was the Broncos last show, but it is actually going to be against the Jaguars at home. So again, so a little flub on me. I own up to all my mistakes and stuff like that. But again, we're going to look at it and everything gets scrutinized from here, whatever happened, all this other stuff. And look, when you look at the plays, you're going to see different things, right? Nobody knows what plays called. Nobody knows any of that information, right? So it's just one of those where now you're seeing kind of some of the stuff that has come into play. Again, I liked, how Rattler started and how he handled himself. Again, I think when you look at some of the plays, we're going to talk about it more, but the pressure on some of the offensive line, like Cesar Ruiz got beat really badly early on.
God.
Dylan Raines got beat really badly early
keep the list coming of offensive linemen that kept getting beat early on.
Well, I mean, I tell you, you got a Trevor Penning holding penalty too. I mean, that again, the thing with Ruiz is it led to a big hit on Spencer Rattler, and you can't have that, right? Like Cesar Ruiz is supposed to play better. And again, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for either quarterback, right? But the offensive line is supposed to be their bread and butter, right? That is what this team's identity has been said. And if Ruiz can't play up and now Trevor Penning's injured, that's not a good thing. Will Clapp, like you lost 4 players in this game and 2 of them were offensive linemen and you already weren't having Landon Young in this lineup. So it's just like, that's not a good sign regardless of whoever plays quarterback. Like, again, I thought there was some positives to take away here from both quarterbacks. I do feel like what happens next week is what's going to be the proof in the pudding, because was that a blip on the radar for Spencer Rattler? Will he get to start next week at home, or will that be Tyler Shough? Will they flip-flop it? Because playing with the different personnel could make a difference for him. I mean, you want to see stuff like that. And so with either quarterback, again, Tyler Shough had a golden opportunity in that 2-minute drill. Like he just missed Kevin Austin Jr. on that route. And if he hit that play, that was it.
I was already standing up celebrating. I thought that was going to be replaying in my mind for days. I mean, we got that later on with the Mason Tipton touchdown.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit more about Mason Tipton later on, I'm sure. But again, I just think that I think it was a win on the day for Shough, but Rattler, again, not counting anybody out, Rattler, I think, is plenty capable of winning this job or keeping this job. But again, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do next week because, even Rattler didn't have the top end talent to work with. There was no Rashichi, no Olave, no Alvin Kamara, no Eric McCoy. And so no one really got that benefit. So it's going to be interesting to see who plays along with the quarterbacks next week and how they respond to the challenge, because I don't know, it was interesting watching them on the sideline afterwards and how they responded, how they reacted.
Yeah, look, and I liked what Spencer Rattler was able to do with his legs. Like, if you don't see it there, take off. 3 rushes for 22 yards. I mean, he ended up leading the team in rushing yards. I mean, I think that's obviously a big thing that we get harped up in the quarterback's final stat line. But again, I think he made some good decisions on some of those runs he made. Again, taking off and giving him a chance at the goal to go situation from the one, which again didn't work because the offensive line got blown up. But, again, I think that's also stuff that matters. And Shough took off a little bit. He had that one rush for 3 yards, but stuff like that is going to matter. Your pocket awareness and your, be able to feeling that pressure. Are you going to be able to go through your progressions and reads? I mean, this is their first exposure to live bullets. We've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the Chargers defense, regardless of whether their starters played, they were a top defense last year. It's not like they're playing some simp defense, right? And so again, you can sit on either side of the fence. You can make excuses for Tyler Shough. You can make excuses for Spencer Rattler. You can be one or the other. And that's what I hate, is the fact that we have to say, it's one or the other on this one. And you show some favoritism or show something. You're showing favoritism to one quarterback. But look, again, it's no quarterback is the starter after this game, right? Again,
Yeah.
like you could say, okay, maybe it's still Spencer Rattler's job, possibly. Like that's probably where they would go. But Tyler Shough had a great golden opportunity to really put himself up into that conversation, saying, okay, we've talked about him having to do something to take the job from Rattler. Again, if he leads him into that touchdown drive at the end of the half, that would have automatically like pricked everybody's ears up, and it would have been, all right, we got something. But I don't think that the way Tyler Shough handled himself was anything bad. I just don't know that it was enough to say, absolutely, he's 100% going to be the starter week 1. And everybody should have that mentality. Nothing is settled after this week.
Yeah, I was going to say he didn't capitalize with a touchdown, but I think the 2-minute drive showcased everything that a team wanted to see out of Haener, except for that one little overthrow. And again, he's a rookie. Mistakes are going to happen. Mistakes did happen worse later on. But I thought he did well with the poise. It is crazy to get his first NFL snaps. It is a preseason game, but still his first preseason snaps in a 2-minute drill. And then he came out, and I still think that he did it. I'd give him a B+ for his performance in that drive. He didn't get into the end zone, but I think it was still a positive drive. And I think that was the best drive of the day up to that point from the offense.
Yeah, and I think, again, going back through some of it, because, again, a lot of it's fresh in my mind, too, but that coverage sack he took, he can't take a sack like that, right? Like, again, and I think that's going to come with some of the reps and the experience, but, again, some of his throws that he made, the decisiveness, again, we talked about in training camp, he just looked like he just wasn't pulling the trigger, and, again, I like the fact of being his decisiveness in the 2-minute drill. That looked great. Mason Tipton, you got to give a lot of credit to him on that route. I mean, he ran a heck of a route. So did Kevin Austin Jr. on the one that was just missed. But again, I feel like with either quarterback, it's tough, right? And here's the thing. It's not fair to Tyler Shough, regardless. It's not fair to Spencer Rattler either, because everybody's so hyped up on this, how Shedeur Sanders did. Let's talk about this in a year. And if he actually plays a football game or something, like, let's not go jump to conclusion. Like, y'all want to make a big deal about one preseason game with one quarterback, and then you're saying a big one off of this one, or not so big a deal. Like, I hate how the goalposts shift. But again, this is a learning experience. This is a fresh start for everybody because it resets. They're going to go into next week, and then we'll see what happens. But again, this is a rebuilding team. We're not talking about a team that's supposed to win 10 to 12 games here, maybe 8 at most. Maybe more looking like a 3 or 4 win team type of today, but I think there were some positives. And again, that's what you want to see, is you want to see some building, some progression. How do they get better from this starting point? Because the starting point, the bar is kind of somewhat low. What do they do next week?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is I think you're going to be looking for which quarterback gives you the best chance moving past this year. Because I still feel like the expectation shouldn't be to make the playoffs this year, even though anyone inside the organization, anyone's going to tell you they want to win games immediately.
Sure.
I think it's about who, if Rattler is a slightly better quarterback over these next couple of weeks and helps you win maybe 1 or 2 more games, is it worth it to throw Rattler out there if you don't feel like he has enough of a ceiling? Because I think Shough showed the potential. At least he has he showed the tools, and if he can provide at least a serviceable quarterback play and look like he can get better over the year, I still think you give him the reps over Rattler. But again, this is all, we have a couple more weeks of preseason, and this is just our first little thoughts on the quarterbacks. But coming up next, we're going to be jumping into a little bit more on the team, and I think we should probably keep it with the offense and start with wide receiver because there are a couple of interesting things to talk about from that side of the football. Interesting is the word I'll use.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. It's my favorite time of the year. NFL kickoff is here, and I'm ready to crush my friends in fantasy football. I'm the best drafter ever. And you might see some of my takes on the show and think that's wrong, but I have at least one fantasy football championship in my life to prove you wrong. But this year, I'm playing on Yahoo Fantasy because they're making the fantasy football experience like it's never been before. Me and the rest of the Saints squad are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, because whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league, it's going to give you a new experience. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's just one left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. And if you're still into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonNFL. Jumping back into it, let's start off with the wide receivers because you mentioned the coverage sack. We've had some people talking about different players like Kevin Austin, Mason Tipton. I think overall the wide receivers had a big opportunity to showcase why they need to be on the team with Olave gone, with Shaheed on, with Brandon Cooks only playing like one or two drives. And I think that they kind of failed because there was no Mason Tipton had the one big play, and that's kind of like the Mason Tipton play you want to see. The speedy guy got over the top of the defense, but there was not a lot of separation throughout the day. And whenever Shough did get going, it was some slant routes, short plays. I think that overall the wide receivers underwhelmed me today.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at that Cedric Wilson hookup, the big one. Again, if we're going to go there, busted coverage by the Chargers, but you're going to take it, right? Again, but outside of the Mason Tipton, we've been concerned about the wide receiver depth. We've been very concerned about the tight end depth. I know I have. And so not to jump ahead, but wide receivers though, again, you just want to see a little bit more. And it's unfortunate because with Bub Means, he was already not having a good camp, right? Like it was just very quiet camp. And then for him to get hurt, it looked like the same foot that he had dealt with last year in the same stadium too, as a right one that he's dealing with, getting carted off. That means that spot's probably going to open up. I mean, it's just never good. I mean, he has a towel over his head. And of course, I'm not a doctor. There was no medical updates on any of the players that got hurt. But with Bub Means, that was a tough one to see. They tried Dante Pettis a couple of times. He is a veteran, him and Donovan Peoples-Jones. But again, I look at it outside of the Mason Tipton bomb, it was very underwhelming. And so this is a reason, again, not to open up past wounds, but we talked about the team going after somebody like a Keenan Allen or getting some other players in the past, you know what I mean? And so now it's like, this is kind of what you're stuck with, what you're going to have. And if something happens to the top guys like Olave or Shaheed or anything, this is the concern, is that your depth is not where it needs to be. And yes, you can convince yourself, you can say all this stuff, but I'm sorry, Mason Tipton or Kevin Austin Jr., none of those guys replace Brandon Cooks or replace Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed. None of the guys that are 4, 5, and 6, and 7 on the depth chart replace any of those top three guys by themselves. And so I think that's the biggest thing that everybody's got to remember. And so I'm with you. I think there were some times where the receivers could have helped their quarterbacks out a lot more. And that's unfortunate. And again, this is part of the growing process and pains that you have to deal with a team that A, is rebuilding, and then B, needs to give more attention to this position.
Yeah, while you're talking about Bub Means' injury, I think we should talk a little bit more about injuries because it was a brutal day. You lost Bub Means to the ankle, and then Trevor Penning of Will Clapp and Mason Pline all also left the game with injuries. Ross said at some point that the Saints had more injuries than points, which was not what you want to see. I think the injuries across the offensive line are super concerning. I'll give a shout out to, on the positive side, to Torricelli Simpkins. I think he stepped in and actually played a great game, better than I think we've seen throughout camp. So I think that him stepping up his play in the absence of Will Clapp as a backup to Eric McCoy would be a huge win. But really, the depth in the offensive line looked pretty rough. Dylan Radins, I know he's been more of a guard. They had him play tackle today. Keep him on the inside because he was getting beat left and right on the attack as a tackle. And I do think that Dylan Radins can still play, but I think it's clear that he should be a guard and not a tackle. What do you think of the offensive line overall?
Yeah, you can't put him on the outside. I mean, again, the Rattler strip sack, that's one of the things. Again, it's going to go either way. Some people are going to fault Rattler. You got to feel that pressure and get it out. But I think when you get somebody beat like that, I mean, you just look at the rep. Cesar Ruiz on that one, that rep got Rattler hit. Radin's got some holding penalties. He went from right tackle to left tackle, and it didn't look any better. I mean, this is a guy, and again, he hadn't played football in a while, probably, and so maybe that's some of the warm-up process, but that doesn't make you feel good. And he's playing there a lot more because Landon Young is hurt right now too, and I think he would have probably been the left and right tackle in that potential place. But Radin's now, his importance, he has to get it because he needs to be the left guard if Trevor Penning is hurt. But I'm with you. I thought Torricelli Simpkins definitely helped his case. I think he's on the trajectory to make this roster at this point. But right now, with Will Clapp going down, I mean, he was a backup center. I know he had some struggles with some snaps in camp, but he's a veteran, and so I know he'll get it together, if you will. But again, that has been the problem with the Saints is that, yes, your best laid plans are fine, but they don't get the best laid plans. They always have something that gets in the way that throws a wrench in the plan. And so I don't feel great about the depth after this one. I thought that, there are some major question marks. And again, to talk about this offense and the defense, this is generic vanilla football in the first preseason game. Yeah. You don't see a lot of the creativity. You don't see a lot of, Kellen Moore flexing his IQ and play calling. Same thing with Brandon Staley. You did see some blitzes, but mostly base, a lot of nickel base in a couple situations in nickel. Again, that's the thing is that you're going to see a lot of base stuff, and it's just kind of like best on best, if you will. And so that's what's disappointing is that I saw too many times where some of the run game couldn't get going or the pressure was too much on either quarterback. And that's not what you want to see. And so again, I think the offensive line depth, major question mark, something that has to get better. And they're going to have to do it in some way, form or fashion. Trevor Penning and Kelvin Banks Jr. got pretty significant snaps with Rattler, playing well into the second quarter, if you will. And so Penning, beside that holding penalty, looked pretty decent. I really like what I saw from Kelvin Banks Jr. I really was pleased there.
That's where I was going to go next. I think Kelvin Banks is looked good. You're talking about best on best.
See nothing else.
I think best is the word that I would describe Kelvin Banks on the day. I mean, I think he might have had the cleanest day. He looked awesome. And I think him on that left side, if Penning, because Penning did play a little have some nice plays before the injury. I think we have to wait and see what that injury is because it could be devastating to this offensive line. But if they played like they did today, I think the left side of the line could be fine. And then again, don't really have any worries about Talise Fuanga, Eric McCoy. Cesar Ruiz had an up and down day, but that's kind of been his career. And I think overall it's fine. I think overall the offensive line is going to be fine. Assuming they're healthy, but that's with any team in the league. Because it's just the depth here. It seems to be especially worrisome.
Yeah, but the thing is, they can't be fine. They got to be good to great because that's what they're hanging their hat on. They're trying to be a running team under Kellen Moore. They're not supposed to be a big passing team. This is more RPO. This is going to be a lot of run-based team, if you will. And so they need their offensive line to play at a good to elite level, if you will, to give them a chance. And again, you start putting injuries in the picture and then the fall off on a guy like Trevor Penning to Dylan Radins at guard. you would like to think that their depth is good, but we fooled ourselves into that last year, and that wasn't the case. It was a lot of question marks there. They lost Nick Saldiveri to an injury already. I mean, this is a unit that's quietly just getting decimated by injuries, and that is a big concern. And, now can they make it to week 1 with the starting 5 intact? I mean, we got to wait to see what happens with Trevor Penning, but this has been the thing. The interior play has been a problem for this team. I love what I've seen from Kelvin Banks. I don't need to see much of anything else, right? I don't need to see anything from Talise Fuanga. I know Eric McCoy is going to be strong, but that interior piece is really what's got me worried. And then if any of the top guys go down, then I'm really concerned, because they can say that they're just as good or we're not going to miss a step, but that was bull, because you talked to Kendre Miller and they felt every bit a difference when Eric McCoy went out in week 3, and they never were the same.
Also, just as an update, because we were doing this right after the game ends, Kellen Moore did not give any major updates on any of the injuries to this point, which is not shocking. I think Saints fans especially should be pretty used to that after a game, not getting very much handed to them. But again, overall in the offense, did you have any other offensive takeaways that stood out to you?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I thought Kendre Miller looked really good. I really thought Kendre Miller was a huge bright spot. I love getting him involved in the passing game early. I think they need to use Kendre Miller more in the passing game, but absolutely. I really think between that and his little kick return, this was a really good game for Kendre Miller, and I'm encouraged by that. I know the first run he had, where it was 2nd and 1, he lost some yards, but I thought he bounced back. He had some really good runs in this game. Again, I was very happy with what I saw from him. And of course, we talked about Mason Tipton already. That was a good one from him. Velus Jones Jr. would be the other guy. I think Velus Jones Jr. is pretty much on this roster. And again, I think he was somebody that was already like in that conversation, but if there was ever any doubt of how electrifying he is and what he could potentially add to this running back room, I'm not so sure. If Kendre Miller plays like that, I think it's Velus Jones Jr. maybe next on the depth chart, and then they're going to have to figure out who's going to be the next guy between Cam Akers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Devin Neal, who is hurt right now. So I was really excited to see what I saw from Velus Jones Jr. I think he's got some real electricity to him, and so again, that was really pleasant to see. Again, I could go back to some negatives, like again on Rattler's drive, Jack Stahl's got to make that catch, right? Like if he needs to make that catch, and if that's not necessarily on Rattler, but when you go back and look at this game, you're going to see a lot of that stuff. Is you're going to see drops, you're going to see certain things, but overall, some good, some not so good, and some not so great. But that's what you get with a team that's rebuilding and first time head coach, and they got to build from this now.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting with Velus Jones Jr. If he does make the roster, we didn't see him as a kick returner, but as a punt returner, but he looked good as a returner, and that could then open up another spot past Dante Pettis if Velus Jones outperforms him there in the wide receiver room. And again, I agree. I think Kendre Miller again showed why the Saints liked him all those years. He looks shifty. I think the vision is improving. Want to see him break a couple more, but again, this offensive line did not make his job very easy. And then I think if that spot does get opened up from Dante Pettis, I think a big winner from today that we didn't mention early on that much is Kevin Austin Jr., who clearly has made a good connection with Tyler Shough so far. Found him a lot on that drive, and I think him getting open. And I think that's a good sign given the Bub Means injury. Another guy stepping up.
Yeah, I mean, I think he finished 5 catches, 44 yards or something. I mean, he's pretty active. He's active on that Shough drive as well. And so, again, if he makes the big catch from Shough, maybe again, I loved his route. I thought the throw was pretty good from Tyler Shough. Just a little bit, out of the range for Kevin Austin Jr. Maybe slowed down. I don't know. I mean, you have to go back and watch it. We're going off of what we saw in real time and taking notes and all this other stuff. So again, he's somebody that with potentially Bub Means with the injury now. I mean, now his opportunity to potentially step up. And again, he was a guy that was added late in the process last year, coming from UFL, and so. I mean, he hung around on the practice squad, ended up seeing some snaps, obviously, in the regular season because of injuries and such. But again, the depth is concerning, right, at the receiver position. But I thought he had some pretty decent moments for today.
Yeah. And I think we'll wrap up there on the offense. But coming up, we're going to touch on some defense because I think they really won the day. If we're talking about a one side versus the other, I think the defense, especially early on, looked pretty strong. All right. I know everyone wants to see the Saints play football now that they saw Tyler Shough throw a football. And the good news is you can do that pretty easily with Game Time. The Saints football season is less than a month away, and no matter who the quarterback is, Game Time will be the best way you can see them play in person this year. It completely takes the stress out of shopping for tickets and gets you the best price possible. Right now, you can find tickets for the Saints home preseason opener against the Jacksonville Jaguars next Sunday for just $7. And get this, the prices are only going to go down from there. Game Time makes getting football tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to kickoff, and you can save up to 60% with their last-minute deals. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We are back. Now let's touch on the defense because I think this is going to be a much happier 30 minutes of podcasting because I think the defense was a little bit more fun to watch. We got to see players like Danny Stutzman prove us right that he looks like a dog. Jalen Ford had a great day. Fadil Diggs had a great day. Quincy Riley had a couple moments. Let's start off, John. Where do you want to start off on defense? What made you happiest the most?
Yeah, I think the defensive unit that was there to start was pretty good against Taylor Heineke. Now, when Trey Lance came in, still problems with the mobile quarterback. Again, would it have changed if it had the starters in there? I don't know. We got to figure out. And they got Kyler Murray coming into town in the first week, so that's something that they're going to have to figure out as well. But I think I liked what I've seen from some of the defense early on. I thought Brian Brzee played pretty well. I loved what I saw from Christian Boyd. I mean, it wasn't a safety. He got tackled at the one. So I know people are all kind of whatever, but that was a heck of a rush that he put on, right? I really liked that. I thought DeMarco Jackson played pretty well in his reps that he got. So did DeFi Soul. I felt really good about the linebacking core. I think that was the biggest takeaway for me. I think there are some good things in the run department, but it's still yet to be decided because you're talking about a different defense that was on the field in the second half. I feel like, I think the first half they did pretty well, all things considered. They started strong, had, obviously the touchdown drive that they gave up to Trey Lance, but overall I felt pretty good about some of the things. I thought Ike Yadam making that pass breakup early, that was a good play for him to have because it kind of puts a little bit more pressure on like a Quincy Riley. He's like, no, I can still play. I can still ball. Now Quincy Riley's not taking my job anytime soon. Right. And so as the plays came on, I thought Fadil Diggs was all over the place. I really liked what I saw from Fadil Diggs. I think, Isaiah Foskey didn't have a great game. I think he was there. One play is what I saw. He was in to help stop a run that was blown up for a loss of 4, but he was there first contact, setting the edge, but Fadil Diggs is the one that cleaned it up. And so Foskey has a lot of growing to do. And I liked what I saw from Isaiah Stallbird. I thought Isaiah Stallbird was all over the place. I really enjoyed what he was able to put out on film today too.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree with pretty much all of that. I want to start off by giving a shout out to Christian Boyd. Man, you should have had that safety. Rule of cool, let him have his safety. Danny Stutzman, Fadil Diggs, all of those guys. I think that, again, we have been proven that we've been proven that the linebacker depth is fine. I think that is one of the strengths of this defense. And I think the secondary looked good. Quincy Riley didn't come up with like a pass breakup or anything, but he did. Again, every time I just see him diving straight to the ball every time, no matter where the ball is. Quincy Riley is going to be there to make a play. It's pretty fun to watch. Where do you stand on the secondary? Because that's somewhere we've liked for the past couple of weeks. but you want to see more of.
Yeah, look, I thought both rookies. I thought Quincy Riley and Jonas Sanker had pretty good games. I really liked what I saw from Quincy Riley to Jonas Sanker is another one. So I feel good in terms of that. Rico Payton had a couple of moments, right? Like he got juked on one of the routes. Then he had a face mask that took away one of those almost sacks, if they would have got Trey Lance down there. But I think he bounced back from that. I think he had some good plays after that. And so, look, I like the fact that Ike got him. Quincy Riley and Jonas Sanker, three of the players who are probably going to see some time this season, were able to play up pretty well. I thought it was a little quiet from Jordan Howden, if you will, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. We got to go back and rewatch some of it. But, with not having your top guys, I saw Kool-Aid in there for a bit. I think I remember Kool-Aid making one play. If I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back again and remember. But I'm pretty sure I thought Kool-Aid made one play on him. But at any rate, I feel better about this secondary. I think we've kind of been trending in that direction. Julian Blackmon and Justin Reed back there. I feel good about them. Blackmon played some. I don't think Justin Reed suited up in this one, but look, there's encouragement to be had there. It's just a matter of, can this pass rush come to life? That's really the biggest thing, because if the pass rush can do what they're supposed to, it makes the secondary's job a lot easier. But if you're having to stay on somebody for 7 to 8 seconds because you can't get to the quarterback, or the quarterback extends the play, then that's where disaster strikes, right? We've seen it time and time again. But I think this secondary is probably very underrated. I think their linebacking unit is really good. I'm not worried about the back half. I'm worried more about this front half, like the trenches, if you will, on both sides. I think that's the biggest question mark for this team. But again, some encouraging play to see from the rookies. Quincy Riley, I think, is going to learn a lot in a short amount of time. So is Jonas Sanker. And so, again, that's a good thing for the Saints, because the secondary is going to be tested a lot in this NFC South, regardless of in some of the teams they play. I mean, look, Josh Allen's on the schedule. What Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, all those guys have to do with this. And two, it's a lot of pass teams that got some big weapons on them, and they're going to need to be kind of a good bread and butter for this defense too.
Yeah, and I think I'll bring us to that front seven. I think at this point there is no way that Fadil Diggs should not be on the roster on opening day. He has flashed throughout camp. He has looked more consistent and better than Isaiah Foskey. We did it in the game, and I think that as a team that is searching for more pass rush help outside of Chase Young and Carl Granderson, Fadil Diggs has done about everything that you could ask for. 2 TFLs today, a sack, and he was, messing up some other plays. It wasn't all bad for Isaiah Foskey. He made a couple of plays, but again, he's just not as active or as present as you want to see him be in year 3. It feels like we're still talking about Foskey as if he's like a late round draft pick. He was a second round draft pick 3 years ago. He just it was a second round, right? Or was it early? Yeah.
40th overall, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
3 years ago. It just hasn't been enough out of Foskey still to this point. And I think that if something doesn't happen over the next couple of games, it might be time to move on.
Yeah, I mean, Fadil Diggs and Chris Rumpf played better than he did today. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Rumpf picked up a sack. I thought, again, Fadil Diggs was all over the place. And again, that stuff does matter. But here's the thing with Fadil Diggs, it's a playing well in practice and then showing it in the game. That's the difference between somebody like him and Isaiah Foskey. Is Foskey may not show it in practice, or might have shown a few flashes here and there, but in the game, there's one play I saw that he actually affected. And that's tough, man. You can't be on a team. You can't get relied on when you're not cutting the mustard. And if an undrafted rookie, or not an undrafted, because Fadil Diggs was the last 6th round, was that 6th round pick? I think was it 6th or 7th? Either way, Fadil Diggs, I thought it was playing way better, and he has been playing way better. And maybe it's because this system better suits him, and he's not doing the thing where he's thinking a lot. And Chris Rumpf has been in this league for a little bit too, and so
in this system before, like for years.
Yeah, in the system, and so and I thought Jonah Williams looked pretty good too, and he's somebody kind of like can do inside outside. They put Nathan Shepard on the outside as well, but right now Isaiah Foskey is somebody who absolutely, when you look at stock down or losers from this game right now, like he's got to be one that conversation, because that should have been a game where he should have played up at a higher level. And that's unfortunate, but I'm with you. They're going to have to figure that out. And you can't just keep somebody because you want to make it work, like square peg, round hole type thing. Your second round pick doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. And you got to admit it and come to terms with that. And I think that's the biggest problem sometimes with the leadership is there's a little bit more pride involved in some of that aspect. And it's like, you can get stuff wrong. You're not perfect. You're not going to draft the 2017 class every single year. You're not going to draft the 2006 class. You're going to make mistakes. Just own up to it and say you made a mistake.
Yeah, and it's getting to that point. On the interior, I would give a shout out to Christian Boyd. We talked about that. I like to see him stepping up. Vernon Broughton had some nice plays. Colin Saunders got close to a couple plays. I think that I'm getting more and more, fine with the interior of the line as we go along, because I do think Devon Godshaw has had a great camp and he looked ready to step in. Brian Bresee is someone I'm super high on. I think he's pretty underrated overall. And so you're waiting for those, the next couple of guys. And I think you're starting to see them. I think Christian Boyd is, getting close to his roster spot. And everyone I mentioned, what do you feel about the interior of the line?
Yeah, I think there's still some tough decisions to make there, right? And I think that's good for Christian Boyd because his camp had been a little bit quiet. And again, he's kind of a guy that's been buried on the depth chart. People forget last year when they had the debacle with the defensive line, he was the one that had the some of the fallout. Like he wasn't getting developed last year. He was not getting anything from Ty Grantham. And that was one of the reasons why you never really saw him a lot. They traded for John Ridgway III and they got him and he was playing a lot more snaps. But again, you saw the brute force power of what Christian Boyd can do on a defense, just blowing that play up and making things happen. And I think that's a great natural position for him to play. Again, when you look at it, it's interesting because, again, where does Jonah Williams fit in? Because you could use him potentially on the outside or you move him inside. We didn't see Devon Godshaw. Brian Bresee stock, I'm all on that too. Like, again, I think we've seen him be able to be more effective in the run game, which was the knock on him, right? He could get after the quarterback. He just couldn't really get after and play run defense like he should. But it's some hard decisions coming because it's practically, what do you do with the Jonathan Bullard, right? Like, that's the thing is, it's Devon Godshaw and Brian Bresee, but then there's going to be some jostling for the next few guys. And do they keep 4 defensive linemen? The guys who can play inside and outside, like a Nathan Shepard, I think have a little bit more upside to them to keep them on the roster. So I think it's going to be fascinating. And that's not even talking about guys like Vernon Broughton, who, what do you do with him? I think that he's a guy that you see some promise in, but you have to keep him over a Christian Boyd. Maybe, I don't know. That's a tough position to figure out, but it's a position they got to figure out because they've got to be better against the run. But I feel encouraged that some of their depth is actually showing up in this game. And so, again, we'll see how it kind of progresses here.
Yeah. Again, yeah, I think we're going to go to our last, little break. We're going to come back, answer some questions from throughout the show, and give us our final thoughts on this preseason game. It was fun. And be sure, if you're listening to us live, drop into the comments a question. Use hashtag Ross is bald. So we know that you're asking us a question for us to answer on the show. That is hashtag Ross
is bald.
It is bald. Not to shock you.
Wow.
Yeah, Ross.
Crazy.
Ross Jackson's bald. All right, wrapping it up today. We're going to answer some questions from the chat and give us some final thoughts as we get ready for this next little week of games. We'll start off with Justin Pasquale. Yes, what happened to Will Clapp? Never seen if he's okay or what. Hashtag Ross is bald. We haven't heard anything on injuries yet, but we touched a little bit on the offensive line. I think Will Clapp is going to be someone that is super important for the success of this team. Just in terms of backup, he's an experienced backup. I believe he's played with Brandon Staley before. Again, they're different sides of the ball, but still same building. Yeah. Same building, I mean, there's some familiarity. But again, I think Torricelli Simpkins is someone that stepped up positively today for them.
Yeah. Yeah, no return on Will Clapp. I mean, again, that's the thing is, and there's no updates on that. I think you saw he got hurt early on in the process, and like that's what John Stinchcombe was saying on the broadcast, that he thought he was dealing with something previous snap, and then it happened again, and he had to get out of there. So hopefully it's nothing serious. But knowing the Saints' luck, sometimes you guys know that that's not really a luxury that this team has. But he's a veteran; they'll have to figure this thing out. And again, that's another veteran that is going to be potentially not in the mix, and you got to worry about what happens with Trevor Penning. But again, to say somebody's okay just because they didn't get carted off, like you talk about Piln, the tight end. I mean, that looks like shoulder territory for him, and so that doesn't look good. Bub Means' injury doesn't look good. Penning was on a cart, but sideline reporter Jeff Nowak, he said that he was walking around, so that's maybe a little encouraging. Maybe it's precaution. You just have to see, right? And again, we're jumping the gun, jumping to conclusions on some of this stuff. We'll just have to see how it plays out, but no updates on any of the injured players.
Will you cut your mustache if Shough is the day one starter? # Ross is nulled. I'll cut my mustache if you can learn to spell. No, I'm joking. No, I won't, because I think that he will. And I like my mustache. You should see me whenever I shave my mustache. I look like I'm 12 years old. I've dealt with that affliction for a long time, and I think it's a little bit better now. You'll get used to it. # Bald Twins. # Ross is bald. Who is your number 2 running back after today? We talked a little bit about it earlier. I think it would still be Kendre Miller to this point, just because no one's done anything past that. I liked what we saw a little bit out of Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a blocker today, and a little bit in the pass game. Hey.
There's Hello. Bald man.
There's me.
Hey.
It's me. Oh, I guess I could do this. I can go this way.
Ross here.
I made it.
What are you doing?
Okay? I'm sure the audio is not great, but can y'all hear me okay?
No, we can hear you just fine.
Yeah, right. No, we can hear you good. Ignore the hashtags in the comments. ignore the hashtags. All right, Ross Jackson is here. You can keep dropping some questions. Ross will be here. Ross, I think we have to ask you, what are your overall quick thoughts on the game?
Yeah, look, I think.
Oh,
well, Ross went to purgatory. Hold on.
Ross is in purgatory.
SoFi consumed him. He's gone.
Sorry.
There he is.
Somebody was trying to call me. And so that messed
How dare you try calling him during Locked On Saints?
Yeah, right. Yeah, don't call me right now. I'm busy. I would say for me, the big thing was that everything comes down to the quarterback competition, right? And so if you're looking for optimism from the quarterbacks, I think you're waiting another week. And I think that's okay. Like, I don't think that you're in a situation here to where you're I don't think that you're in a situation here to where you can walk away and say, hey, one of these guys won the quarterback battle on, on Sunday. You know what I mean? And so I think that's kind of the biggest thing to me. Now, the thing that's going to be interesting is, and I'm curious to see, like, I saw like Tyler Shough wincing and a little bit of pain during the game and stuff like that. Looked like he might have taken a shot to the leg or something like that. So I'll be interested to see how that factors into what happens next week. But if both of those guys are able to be out on the field next week at home up against the Denver Broncos, which I know is the game that John has been saying, like, hey, that's a big prove-it game there, because that Denver Broncos defense it's the Jaguars. Sorry, I was thinking about the Broncos.
I said addressed that earlier in the show. I was like, I misspoke. Yeah, it was actually the Jaguars.
Yeah. And so but in any case, like, I think very much that, like, looking to next week is going to be kind of the big thing that you're going to be waiting to see. Like, can Tyler Shough not have such big swings in the games where he's throwing like a 50+ yard touchdown, but also a 49-yard pick six? And can Spencer Rattler's like consistency bring more production and everything? And so I think those are kind of the things that you're waiting to find out and waiting to see still going into next week. So I would hold off any like optimism and decision making around quarterback for at least another week at this point.
Yeah.
I was saying, go for it. Yeah, and I was to say you should feel encouraged that Tyler Shough was able to bounce back after his interception. I think that's the biggest thing that I would say, is that if he would have still played like that after that point, then maybe you would have had a little bit, less encouragement and stuff. So again, I like that aspect of Tyler Shough's game today too.
Yeah, I thought Shough was the better quarterback. I'll say that. Like I thought that his top production was better than Spencer Rattler's top production. But I also think that you just saw like the big swing. You know what I mean? And that's always been the thing with Tyler Shough is that like he's got these outstanding throws on tape, and then he's also got these like kind of cringy moments on tape as well. And so, we'll see kind of where things go with all of it. But I do think for sure that like finding out kind of which one of those guys has the more consistent performance as they move through the rest of the preseason, I think that's going to be the real deciding factor.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a lot more of the offense style too. Like, again, I've said this and people want to bring me to the stake and burn me, but I think this is going to be more of a dink and dunk offense. I don't think this is going to be a team that pushes the ball down the field 30, 40 yards. I mean, they have that ability, but their bread and butter is going to be the run, and they're going to try to go with the quick, safe options or quick options. And you saw that in the 2-minute drill with Tyler Shough. You saw it with Spencer Rattler, making the quick decisions. I feel like that is where this offense is headed, and you may hate it, but again, I think that's just where we're at this team.
Yeah, I think that's true. Well, there are a lot of Ross's bald. All
right, we have a hashtag Ross's bald question of the show. How would you? From Juvia Debase, how would you guys grade Kellen Moore's play calling today? You can't really say because it's a preseason game. It's a
generic play calling. Generic. Like I see comments of people talking about Shough getting better play calling. How do you know? Did you read Kellen Moore's play call sheet? Like, again, like I just don't get that one. It's like, unless you know what the offense is and know everything in the language and all that stuff, like, you can't say that necessarily. Yeah. I mean, it's no definitive answer.
Yeah. I don't think that I would ever go into a situation where I would come out and say, yeah, this was a great play calling preseason game. Like, so much of it was just like straight dropbacks, like not even a lot of play action, not a ton of motion. Like we saw, this was not Kellen Moore's offense.
Not a lot of RPOs.
Mm-hmm.
RPOs,
this is not
all that stuff.
Yeah, this is not what you're going to see during the regular season. You know what I mean? And so I think, like, I don't think I would grade Kellen Moore as a play caller outside of one decision that I think that he made that I thought was intentional. And that was calling the double move to Mason Tipton on the 1st and 10, the possession after the pick six, and still giving that entire offense, including Tyler Shough, an opportunity to go out there and score, and make a big throw despite the pick six before. So I would give him credit for that, but I wouldn't read too much into play calling in a preseason game ever.
Just to bounce off that, hashtag Dylan Mustache, hashtag Ross's Ball, hashtag John Broncos. Any expectations for more RPOs and quarterback runs in the other preseason games? You might open it up a little bit more, but I do think they're going to save a lot of stuff, of the more creative stuff for after the preseason. Right now, they're just trying to figure out who can complete a pass.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing. Nobody's going to go look to the first and second preseason game and be like, let me scout film off of the preseason game, stuff like that. I mean, I just don't see that as a big deal. I mean, even that they do run some RPOs, I just don't see that you do it. And again, if you're going to look at Tyler Shough, you're going to go look at some of his college film more than anything, And so I wouldn't read too much into some of that. But again, it's a thing. Everybody's going to talk about it and stuff, but whatever.
I think that, I don't know. I think you can look at some of the individual performances. Like I thought that like Tyler Shough, Spencer Rattler, for what was in front of them, and having Torricelli Simpkins, who literally just started playing center like maybe 10 days ago, and everything, like what they had, like I thought that they made some things work, they made some things happen, but I don't know that I'm ready to say anything bigger than there were ups and there were downs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's gonna have to be okay. The two things that concerned me the most was that like the Saints offensive line depth still looks not great. And like really an inability to get anything going in the run game. Like to me, those are the biggest issues. Because when you have a young quarterback, no matter who the young quarterback is, if you can't run the ball and you don't have good offensive line play, it's not going to matter anymore. because you're not going to support that quarterback. And so that's got to be a big thing that they've got to make sure is progressing as they go on throughout the preseason, beyond just the play calling or anything like that.
Yeah. I want to get your thoughts, Ross, because it's a guy that you have been a huge fan of. We were singing his praises earlier. Fadil Diggs and even Chris Rumpf can continue to push Isaiah Foskey to maybe off the roster at this point. I think they both have played well. Fadil Diggs especially looks like the, I guess, fourth guy in that rotation if you count in Cam Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would probably put Chris Rumpf ahead just for right now, just because he's been more consistent all throughout training camp. But Fadil Diggs' last probably like 4 or 5 practices and this game, I think definitely keep him in that conversation for 5th. The thing that was really interesting was that, no Jashin Davis, everything, who had a really strong training camp. We saw Chris Tyree, according to Nick, over at NOF, he got released or waived like the day of the game. That's tough. And so I don't know. There's a lot of these other little things that you're waiting to kind of see where the roster tinkering is. But I feel like Fadil Diggs is doing himself a lot of favors.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's been flashing. Yeah, we didn't even talk about it, but yeah, Jashin Davis is someone we didn't see today, and I'd like to see more of, just because he has looked great. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Yeah, we touched on Isaiah Foskey, considering he just really needs to do something over these next couple of weeks. The linebackers looked good. Is there any other defensive takeaways that you had, Ross?
I would probably highlight Christian Boyd. Christian Boyd had a really strong game. Y'all probably talked about him earlier. I'm sorry, but he had the sack that was almost a safety. After that, he also had some really good plays. I asked him after the game, like, what it is that works for him in this defense. And he talked about how they're not just playing straight ahead like they were in last year's scheme, that they're allowed to move and attack. He actually got that sack by moving from nose tackle to attacking the B gap over on the opposite side. So he actually swung all the way around and then had a swim and a rip move to get there, got there a lot faster than he thought he was going to, and it was able to finish the play at the quarterback there. And so I think that the combination of the defensive scheme and Staley's defensive scheme asking the defensive line to do things now that they didn't do before in Dennis Allen's scheme, coupled with the fact that, let's give Christian Boyd credit, he's developed quite a bit going from his first year into his second year, specifically in adding pass rushing moves to his repertoire. I think all of those things kind of stacked up to help Christian Boyd have a really strong day today.
Yeah. I'll just point this out just because it's still coming in. Shout out to Mike Triplett, John's guy, shared on Twitter that Saints quarterback Tyler Shough said he bruised his right knee but played through it and doesn't seem that it's going to be a concern. I noticed that during the game. I saw him immediately grab his knee, and I was like, "Oh no!" Because it was like for 2 seconds where he didn't get up. I was super nervous, but I was wondering what would happen from that, but it seemed fine.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's going to happen. Bumps and bruises and all that thing. I mean, these things are going to happen, sadly.
Yeah, 100%. So he probably had it iced up after the game and all that. We'll see what happens. They're back at practice, I think, on Tuesday. Yeah. And so with that, we'll see if he's out there.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out on the potential joint practice as well as that gets worked through. That'll be interesting. Sean McVay seemed pretty confident that it'll happen. So that'll be interesting to watch on Thursday. It would be Thursday's practice.
Yeah, and Moore said that they're going through the process of working it out. So we'll see if they're able to get it done. He didn't go into optimism or anything like that, but typically when Kellen Moore has said that they're working on something, it tends so far this offseason to happen. So I think that sounds likely, and that only happens because the Chargers had to dip on the joint practices that they had scheduled with the Rams because they were all beat up, and then they got beat up. So Kellen Moore did acknowledge that they'll have to look at sort of their health situation to see if they're going to be able to kind of do this.
All right. Any closing thoughts on the game, guys? Any stand up final thoughts?
7 penalties are not okay in a preseason game, so you got to be more disciplined. I mean, this is other thing I'd say. Yeah,
and 5 in the first half on top of that.
Yeah,
like that's just tough. Can't do that. Offensive line depth is a thing. health all of a sudden a
Is
thing
it a
after
thing?
not being a thing. Right. And everything. So yeah, I'm with you. Like I think I came away from this game maybe with more concern than optimism for the team. But a lot of that has to do with what the final word on all these injuries are at this point. That's kind of how I would hold it up. Oh, and shout out to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because without him, the Mason Tipton touchdown does not happen. It does not.
Yeah, that's a hell of a quick pickup there.
Yeah. And to close it out, my final thoughts. Molly, my favorite color is pink. Let's close it out. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Ross, for jumping in. Thank you for listening to the Saints Squad Show. Check out me, Ross, John, and Lance on our socials for the latest. We'll be right back here on Thursday to talk a little bit more about Saints practice and this game and what's happening over the next couple of weeks. But until then, be sure to check into Locked On Saints with Ross Jackson for your latest on Saints football.